Twisted, scary secrets between two sisters. I have always been afraid of my little sister. I know that sounds like I must be a pussy. Jackie is 2 years younger and she's always been an interval. She sees things. But now, at 17, she is still tied to mom's apron strings, never leaves the house, and still sees things. Everyone thinks she's special. She's always told crazy stories, and when we were younger, she sometimes got me in trouble by telling her parents the most bizarre things about what she saw. She lied a lot. I was always innocent, and she had tried to drag me into it. Dad told me one day she told Mom about an evil spirit in her room. Jackie would come down for breakfast in the morning with scratches on her back and face. She'd murmur to herself that she could hear things, like nasty demon. Mom was upset and took her to doctors that said that she was doing it to herself and was showing signs of schizophrenia. One time Dad found bird beaks that were still dripping blood, scattered and left in strange places around the house. They were stuffed under cushions, inside coffee cups, and poking out of air vents. She followed the trail of tiny feathers and drops of blood all the way back to Jackie's room. He was nuts that day. I remember hearing Mom and Dad fight over what to do about Jackie. They set her down and asked her about the beaks. She shook her head violently, chirping like a bird and screeching till they got medicine down her throat. We were all terrified of her. I kept my door locked at all times when I started having nightmares of passing out every time something happened. Jackie was always standing there, staring at me with the pale green eyes. Her messy orange hair creeped me out, but when she took scissors to it in a freaky hacksaw, I wondered if it would be next. Mom was worried I was going insane too, but when I turned 18 I decided to move out with my boyfriend. I never forgot the last day I was packing my bags and boxes. Jackie sidled up to me and handed me an envelope. She giggled and backed away as I opened it. I froze. There was pictures she'd drawn of me scratching her face and torturing animals. I looked up in confusion and saw her poking with me with evil grin. You're the one, Denise. You're the demon. You come to me at night in your sleep. I want to believe it, even though I had problems with sleepwalking when I was little. She whispered in my ear. I fought back tears and disgust. Keep bringing me the baby birds, Denise. I like the crunch. If you don't, I'll tell, and you've been taken away. I try to keep her happy, but now my boyfriend wakes up with scratches all over her. There is something wrong with my son. It seems so pointless and ungrateful for me to even complain about what most people would say I'm nuts. But I have a theory that my 15-year-old son isn't my son. I'm not saying that I think he was either switched at birth or that my wife cheated on me back then, but he and I don't click at all. Don't get me wrong, he looks like me, he sounds like me, he even acts like me at times, especially when he's angry or I find something amusing. People are always praising my wife and I for raising such a perfect, well-mannered, intelligent, and good-looking boy who cares about the world. And all creatures, great and small. If you ask me, he's a little too perfect. Even when he loses his temper, He's thoughtful and soon apologizes. Some would say that we have a perfect life. We're well off and we live in a beautiful home which is taking care of my wonderful wife. Some say we're so lucky that it hurts. But I'd give anything to have what other people have, even if it meant being poor. I enjoy seeing trials and tribulations of others. That's what life is supposed to be all about, but my wife doesn't agree. She loves how perfect her little angel is and goes on and on about how wonderful he is. It makes me want to vomit and scream. The only time she's ever lost her temper was 6 months ago when I told her about a vivid dream I had. It started with my son being a year old again. I went into his room and saw the window open with curtains flying and flapping about. I went over to close the window and I felt hairs on the back of my neck prickle. I slowly turned around and saw an evil-looking shadow person leaning over the curb. My instincts kicked in and I raced over to the curb, but the creature grabbed my son up and leapt out the window. I yelled for my wife as I ran down the stairs to apprehend the creature, as my son screamed in terror. When I made it outside, she came up behind me with our son on her hip. We're both smiling sweaty at me. After the dream, I woke up crying and said that I finally knew what happened to our son. We'd been left with a changeling from the other side. My wife was so enraged, she slapped me across the face. She was so hurt that I began to cry. I comforted her and tried to shake the dream off. I'll never forget the next morning at breakfast when my son gave me the strangest smile. He said, "I love you, Father. You know that, right?" I gulped and nearly choked on my coffee because I was so chilled by the undertone of his strange voice. "Yeah, I know that, Daniel. I love you too." I watched as he stared right through me with those extreme pale eyes before he looked back at his eggs with a satisfied smile. Just yesterday, we went to a crazy New Age festival which my wife loves to attend. She and Daniel put on crazy hats and danced with the others nuts while I slept some god-awful herbal smoothie. I nearly choked when I saw my boy watching me from the other side of the field. Something about his eyes and the wistful way he looked at me pulled my heartstrings. I started to move towards him, but in the instant he was gone, I could have sworn I saw a dark figure leading him away. I was then distracted by Daniel, who gave me an almost threatening look. "Father, aren't you going to join in?" he asked in a mincing tone. When I saw the panic look in my wife's eyes, I gave in and took his hand. "Sure," I smiled. I kept telling myself, "Someday soon." My best friend Sasha committed suicide 5 years ago. At 27, she was an identical twin to Sarah. Even though we'd never been that close, Sarah and I soon gravitated towards each other in order to cope. We formed an even closer bond than the one I had with Sasha, which has made me feel a little guilty at times. Still, her parents were very grateful for our new friendship, which helped the grieving process. One thing that has become a nagging issue, though, to this day, Sarah still doesn't like talking about Sasha and does not like to see any photos or videos of his name. At first, I assumed it was the grief. As soon as I discovered how temperamental she could be. Even her mother asked if I could help sort through Sasha's stuff. Sarah was annoyed. It went over 4 weekends. Each week was harder and harder. Not only did I have to deal with the grief, I had Sarah in my face. Every Friday night, I had to fend off Sarah's alcohol-fueled phone calls and threats of speaking to me again. It wasn't until the 4th weekend when I discovered why she was so hostile. It was why I sorted through the final box. Inside was a large bag filled with the bundles of letters. Sarah's mom left the room, so I took the opportunity to check them out. They were all addressed to Sarah from Sasha. My blood ran cold when I opened one of them. The writing was scrawled and erratic. It was a threat telling Sarah that it was time to go. Puzzled, I began checking the other letters. They were all the same, threatening Sarah to end it all. Well, as there was only one room in their family for one daughter. Becoming ill, I was then distracted by a photo. I screamed when I saw Sasha's lifeless body hanging in the family shed. I know that Sasha killed herself in that way, in that location. Problem was, Sarah was in the photo, standing next to her sister, smiling triumphantly. Millions of thoughts flooded my mind. If Sarah was being threatened, why was she the one still living? Then it hit me. Sarah was the one who died. The only reason we assumed the remaining twin was Sarah and the birthmark of her cheek and the pale silver crescent moon only 1 centimeter across. The fact that Sarah was a makeup artist for a film production company who made perfect sense. My best friend killed her twin sister and made it look like suicide, and took her place. While this was all dawning on me, I heard footsteps racing to the room. I looked up and saw Sarah, who was really Sasha, smiling in a strange way. She leaned over and snatched the bag out of my hands. We won't need to hang on to that stuff, will we? She also slowly pulled the photo out of my hand and tossed it into the bag. Then she reached down and brushed my hair away from my face with a menacing look in her gray eyes. Best friends for life, right? She asked. Even though I knew I was in the presence of a killer, I had no idea what to do. When her mom came into the room with a tray of lemonade and cookies, Sasha took a glass after tossing the bag next door to the door. Thanks, Mom. This must have been hard for you both. I'm sure Sasha was watching over us. She slipped her lemonade while looking right at me. All I could do was go along with it. I saw Sasha take the bag and throw it into the trunk of the car. By then, I was planning to call the cops as soon as she was gone, but she seemed to be able to read my thoughts. She hissed into my ear while digging fingers into my arm. This isn't my first rodeo, bitch, so you need to keep your mouth shut, okay? Then she traced her finger across her throat for emphasis. I nearly screamed over her shoulder was an apparition. It was Sarah. Her ghostly finger came up to her mouth to silence me. I saw her slightly bent neck as she mouthed the word, wait. Now I'm waiting for further instructions.